Okay, no movie preview tonight. As you can already tell, got a little different thing going on in the background tonight. Um, and I'm going to wait till some people get in here before I start going into all of this. Hopefully some people will join in. It is January 17th, 2018. This is the Unfound podcast live show hosted by yours truly, Ed Densel. There's Emily. Hi, Emily. How are you doing tonight? I just talked to you a little earlier. I hope you're doing well. I think we'll have some viewers tonight. Just think it takes a little time for everybody to find the link. And this is why I usually do a pre-show type of thing so people can get in here before I start saying anything of any importance. Sometimes I say something of importance. A lot of times I don't. I don't know. Jem, welcome. Andrea, how are you doing tonight? I know some of you are saying, well, that's kind of a different background. Ed, where are you? Well, I'm at my brother's place. He lives in Largo, Florida, which is about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes from where I live. Sherelle, how are you doing? And I'm doing the show from his house while he and his wife are over in Orlando. And I am over here I've been here since yesterday, and I'll be here till tomorrow. And I'm over here to watch their dog. His name is Kobe, not named after the basketball player. It's actually Kobie. I don't know where they got the name. So I'm over here taking care of him, and he is off to my right now, lying on a rug by the TV. He's a 12-year-old mixed breed, 90-pound male dog, kind of to himself. I wouldn't call him the most cuddly dog in the world, but he's well behaved, and he kind of just likes to chill out. So that's why I'm over here. You can see that's their kitchen in the background. You can see the microwave over my right shoulder, or it looks like to you it's on the left. Jem, where's Alexa? Oh, she's here. She's here. She and I have been talking. We've talked. I have a lot of conversations that I can't document, but I've been making some nice jokes about her. It's been a lot of fun. I can see the fascination with Alexa, and I have to tell you, as I've been over here for the last 36 hours, I've been wondering, is there some way to use the Alexa technology, or the Echo technology, I should say, in doing Unfound, researching missing persons cases, and that is something that's been going through my mind, and it's something I'm going to continue to talk about or think about as it progresses, because I'm always looking to do technology and use technology for missing persons cases, and it is fascinating. We'll just have to think about it. Not quite what I expected with the Echo, but it's kind of cool, I guess. And I know they got one because their neighbors got one. I'll just have to see if it can help me do Unfound. And if it is, maybe I'll get one. We'll just have to see. Dorothy says she's present. Stephanie, I guess you did find the show. And Hannah, how are you doing tonight? Once again, I'm at my brother's place. So if you're saying, where's the piano? Where's the trophies? Where's the Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean poster in the background? They're not here. I'm at a different location. I'm on location. I'm at a remote location, I guess you'd say. So what do we want to talk about? First, something funny that happened that I think I should let all of you know about. I was accused of being a conspiracy guy this past week, a few days ago. I won't go into what case it is. It's probably, I don't know if I'll ever cover it or not, but I got talking to somebody who messaged me about a case. And when I, made some comments, this person actually went and tried to find anybody with my last name and discovered that one of my distant cousins that I've never met, who lives in California, could not pick this guy out of a lineup with the last name Densel. Happens to be in a Freemason organization out there. And the person wrote back to me, oh, now I see the reason that you don't want to cover this case is because your family's in the Freemasons. That happened. That happened a few days ago. You never know the kind of weird, strange, unusual emails that I'm going to get doing this program. And, it was kind of funny. Wow. Yeah. Gem. Wow. Exactly. That was a first. I mean, I've got, as you can imagine, doing the Unfound, that I get some weird emails once in a while. I haven't gotten any threatening emails, although I do think about that. Hold on just 1 second. Let me get over here. Let me do this. I'm trying to do this while talking. I have my Mac right here. I want to make sure I want to see all the comments. Okay. And I haven't gotten any threatening emails or anything like that, but I've talked about, being very aware of where I go and what I do. But that is the first one that went the Freemason direction. And it's conspiracy, world conspiracies, the Bilderbergers and all those things. That's just not something I believe in. I never have. I know I never will. But yes, that happened. Yes, Gem. Wow. Andrea, that's what the block button is for. Yes. And Stephanie, yes, that was a wackadoo. It certainly was. So there was that. I thought you all would enjoy that. Yes, I've been talking to Alexa, and I plan on making some Alexa jokes before I leave here tomorrow. The Trib Review, the newspaper in Pennsylvania that I'm now affiliated with, Trib Total Media, triblive.com, where the podcast is now hosted, one of the places that has it. They did an interview with me today, and an interview about me is going to be on there this Sunday, so I will link to it so all of you can read it. And then next Sunday, January 28th, will be the first article in which I assisted in finding the family, learning a little bit about the case. And actually yesterday, one of the Trib's writers went out and met the family and did an interview and everything. And he will be the one who is writing the article and putting everything together. But they're going to do an article on me on this Sunday, so I guess that would be January 21st. And I will make sure that gets posted everywhere so all of you can read it. I'm sure it'll come out, pretty good. It's weird. I do so much interviewing that it's weird that to be interviewed. I have to say it's kind of, somebody's asking me questions for a change. So it is kind of unusual. And the dog wants to go outside, so I'll be back in a second. There you go, pumpkin. Yep, certainly a little bit of a different show tonight. So if you have any more questions, Dorothy, you sent me a question before. I'm going to get to that in a few moments. But any questions, please write them in the comments section. I have my Mac right off here to my left, so I think I'll be able to better follow the comments than I have in the past. So the Trib article, the Freemasons, the poll. For the first time, or maybe the second time, we did a poll in the Unfound discussion group about Aaron's case and about Jeremy's case and whether they were related or not. And the poll, as of a couple hours ago, it was 31 people who thought that the cases were related, but Aaron and somewhat related, but they did not disappear for the same reason. That's 31 people said that. 7 people said that they are explicitly related in that Jeremy and Aaron disappeared for the same reason. And then 2 people said that they believe that the cases aren't related at all. So there you go. That's the poll. I'm going to leave it up. Anybody that I'm going to continue to leave that poll up there for as long as the group exists, and people can continue to vote their opinion on it as people find the show for the first time, listen to those episodes for the first time, and maybe they'll find that in the group and be able to voice it. But it's pretty decisively that people believe that although Jeremy and Aaron knew each other, that their disappearances may be just implicitly related, being that Jeremy might have disappeared because Aaron disappeared, but not for the same reason. So that was the last 2 weeks' cases, and it was really nice to be able to put those two cases together back to back like that. I appreciate Vicky being on the program, Marky being on the program. I thought they did an excellent job, and I want to continue to work with both of them, on either of those cases, whatever direction that they go. I think Vicky's going to be getting back into it. I think that she said during her interview 2 weeks ago now that she took a break from it, but I get the idea that she's going to be getting back into it, and I want to help her any way I can. Just to get the business out of the way, we got the books at Amazon.com. I always bring them up. I did not bring any books with me over here to show you, but you know what they look like on Amazon.com, both in ebook and print form. I hope that if you haven't bought one yet, please do. If you have a Kindle, you can $2.99. If you want a hard copy, $10.99. If you want a copy from me, please contact me privately, and I will sign one, and send it to you. So there's that. And the playing cards, makeplayingcards.com/sell/Unfound podcast. Been selling some of those, which is nice. So check that out at makeplayingcards.com. And then some of you probably also saw that I have a Shopify account now, and that is unfound-podcast.myshopify.com. Don't worry, I'll be posting it everywhere. I'd never expect you to remember that. But right now it's all T-shirts of all of the cases that Unfound is covered through the end of 2017. So Aaron's case, I don't have a shirt for Aaron yet. I don't have one for Jeremy, but everything up to that point is on there. So if you'd like to buy one, has the logo on the front and their picture with their information on the back. Of course, I've already worn one. I wore Jesse Foster's shirt. When was it? Last week, I believe it was, or maybe the week before. Time flies. I'd love for you to check those out and buy one of your choice. My suggestion would be maybe to buy the shirt that is an area near a disappearance that's near you. Just a suggestion. I know some of you feel, especially emotionally attached to some cases and maybe not others. There's nothing wrong with that. Totally up to you. But the store is now open, and I'm going to be adding some other things as I continue to find time, if I can find time to work on those things. Jill, welcome tonight. How are you doing? Good to see you tonight. Emily asked, do you think that Unfound could potentially be a radio show? I know a podcast is sort of like a radio station, but not exactly the same. Sure, Emily. I'd love to, podcast is a radio show. I mean, just in a different form, and it's not live, and it's very much more like what I'm doing right at this second, radio station, in contrast to the actual podcast. But sure, anybody that wants to approach me about doing a terrestrial radio show about missing persons cases and true crime, sign me up. Sign me up anytime. Wherever it may be, if it's on like satellite radio or something, absolutely. In addition to me doing the podcast, I could do something like that. Absolutely. Sure. It could potentially be that. Sure, Emily. That's a good question. Thank you. So we got the business out of the way. We got the shirts, the books, the playing cards. I hope you will check that all out. Thanks. Some missing persons news, just maybe an update. The remember that submarine from Argentina that disappeared back in November, still has not been found. And every time I see that story, I think of Flight 370. And they actually knew where they actually know where the submarine is, and still can't find it. Still not located it. So you can imagine why it's so difficult to find Flight 370, where they're not even sure what direction it went in. So I just wanted to give you an update on that if you've forgotten about it. Many families down there in Argentina are suffering right now, not knowing what happened to their sailors, the submariners who were in that sub. I think they will eventually find. I don't think it's going to be as big a mystery as Flight 370, but it just shows you these things are tough to do. Something vanishes at the bottom of the ocean. It's tough to find. Even the Titanic. I mean, think about the Titanic. Sunk, I should say, in 1912, was not found till 1986. So that's 74 years. It lay on the bottom without being found. So I hope that that's not the case for Flight 370. I hope that's not the case for the submarine. But it's possible. It's possible. Emily follows up. I asked because lots of people don't know what a podcast is, but several people listen to radio. Emily, totally true. I run into potential guests and future guests on Unfound who don't know what a podcast is, and I have to explain it to them. Sure, it's still a new technology, and I think it's a great technology, but still a lot of people don't quite understand it, have never heard it, and I don't mind explaining it to the people, but it just shows you that podcasting, those of us who do it or listen to it, we should not take for granted that everybody knows about it. You should never take that for granted. Jessica, good to see you tonight. Sarah, welcome. And Diane, you asked me a very interesting question yesterday. It sounded, or maybe that was today, that you asked me that. And yes, I've had days like that too, Diane. And so I feel for you. I hope that things turn around tomorrow maybe. Maybe tomorrow will be a better day than yesterday. Dorothy, how about the family with 13 kids who never went outside? I saw that story, Dorothy. I was thinking about putting that in the news, but there's only so much time in one show to cover it. I thought that most of you probably saw that. How many missing persons are locked up in neighbors and don't even know? Probably at least a few. Just like the story that we think of out of Cleveland when those women had disappeared for 10 years. That is going on in the United States somewhere right now. We just don't know where it is. And there's Kobe barking for me to let him back in. Kobe, you are a bad dog. You want to come up? Come on in. Come on in. Here, come here. Here, come here. Come here. Come here. I'm going to show you to the people. Come here. Come here. Come here. Kobe, right here. Hey, look up at the screen. Look, there he is. Kobe. Kobe. There's Kobe right there. Kobe, look, there you go. There you go. There's Kobe the dog. Hi, baby. Now he's standing here looking at me like I'm going to give him food or something. Kobe, he's a mixture of, I don't know, Rottweiler, a couple different things put together. I don't know. He must be very camera friendly, but that's him. And he's sitting right at my leg, rubbing up against me, and his tail is like right here, right off of camera. You can't see it. But that's my brother's dog, Kobe. He's 12 years old. For a big dog of that age, he's in very good shape. He has problems laying down, has problems getting up. Other than that, once he's up, though, he can just run and do everything else. But lying down, getting up are very difficult for him. Yeah, Kobe. Yeah, he's a good dog. Yeah, he's a big dog, 12 years old. And it's a funny story how they got them, and maybe I'll share that to you some other time. But, yes, the story out of Cleveland, yes, I'm sure that, unfortunately, of course, there are probably some people who are chained up who are missing that are in somebody's basement right now. Yeah. In a country of 330 million, probably. Probably. So, I see some other people. Kara, how are you? I didn't see you come in. Lois, I didn't see you come in. Becca, I didn't see you tune in there. And Anne, welcome to all of you. I'm sorry that I missed you. If you got in there, I apologize. But that's And I want you to know that I love dogs. I love animals, and animals pretty much love me. Cats and all sorts of different animals, horses. They all seem to love me, but I just don't have the patience. You know, animals are a little too high maintenance for me. I can take care of a dog for a couple days and things, but just a little too much time in you know, that needs to be invested. And but I will. Somebody wants to take care of their dog for a little while. I don't mind doing that at all. Tara, how are you doing tonight? And hi to you too. So Dorothy, I did see the story about the kids being chained up. Unbelievable. Just a total travesty there. Horrible. Another story that caught my eye. Did you see this tourist from England who went missing in Israel? And this guy might have suffered from something called Jerusalem syndrome. Have any of you ever heard of that? I have not, but I did a little research on it, just a little reading to find out more. That term has been around since the 1870s, if you can believe it. The 1870s. It was documented the first time, and it was a comment about how Americans were going to Israel doesn't exist, but to the Holy Land back at Jerusalem at the time, and they would somehow start thinking that they were one of the apostles or something like that. So it goes back like about 150 years, if you can believe it. It's not. In fact, there was even a Simpsons episode I read that talked about, you know, made fun of course, the Jerusalem syndrome, where Homer goes to Israel or Jerusalem and gets dehydrated and becomes afflicted with this. I had no idea. Never heard of it. But they're looking for him. The guy's been missing since November. I think they found pages from his Bible that have been ripped out. And it was like a trail of breadcrumbs or something, and the pages were weighed down with rocks or something like that. But he's been missing for like 2 months now. He was like biking through the Holy Land, and they think he might have lost his mind somehow, and might have start thinking. They have these delusions. I have it written down here: delusions of religious missions. And some people even start thinking they're biblical figures. I had never heard of that. And that is fascinating. Tara says she just got back from a winery. Well, Tara, you know, I don't drink. That's something I don't know that it's come up on the program or in this. You know, I've never gotten into alcohol at all. And I never got into any sort of drugs or marijuana, anything. Just maybe I'm just too much of I don't know. It's never been part of what I do, but I am a teetotaler and stay away from all of that stuff. But I hope you, Tara, had a great time. But I did buy my brother and his wife beer for Christmas. I don't mind buying beer for people. I'm not like that. But I'm not a drinker by any means at all. I haven't had any alcohol since probably about 2005, something like that. So there's that. Jerusalem syndrome. So you guys can look that up if you haven't heard of it. Dee, Dee, I can tell you, just by looking at your picture, I know who it is. I see the Wonder Woman picture, and I absolutely right away know it's you with the Wonder Woman. You are Wonder Woman there. So Dee, welcome tonight. If any of you have just tuned in and you're wondering, you know, what's going on in the background here, that doesn't look like your place. It's not my place. I'm up here at my brother Brian's here in Largo, Florida. I'm sitting in his kitchen. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my equipment. I actually recorded this week's episode, most of it so far anyway, here. I brought my microphone and everything here, my equipment, and I have recorded most of the program here, along with editing the interview. So I'm sitting here, and you can actually see over this shoulder, you can see the microwave, and behind me the refrigerator in their house. And I hope they don't mind me showing their kitchen to the world. And Kobe, by the way, is now sitting right here at my feet on the floor. He's being a good puppy. Dorothy had asked me a question. Dee Dee, thanks. Okay, you responded. I got the smiley face. I see it. Dorothy had asked me before the show started. I want to make sure I get this right for you, Dorothy. What can families do about thieves, about being taken advantage of, stolen fake identities, to the point of, staying away from psychics and anybody like that? That's a really good question. Here is I don't know if I can get into any specific cases or anything like that. But here would be my thing. Be suspicious of anybody who asks you for money. Anybody. Because you have to remember something. The people who I've had on Unfound, going way back to the beginning of 2017, Tad Tobias, he works for free. Now, he's a lawyer. He makes money doing whatever he does, but he assists police departments for free. Kenneth Maines, heading up ASOC. He's also a guy who, of course, for them to get involved, the cases have to be solved for them. They work for free. Kevin Ryan, private investigator for the DeGuio family. I personally don't know if he's getting paid or not. I don't know. But I do know that he does quite a bit of things for free as well. In fact, I posted a story that was done on him in the Philadelphia newspaper. Great article. Kevin is a great guy, period. So a lot of these people who are prominent do things for free. They have other ways they make money, and of course, Detective Kenneth Maines is really a police officer, so that's how he makes a living. Tad Tobias is a lawyer. That's how he makes a living. And Kevin Ryan, he does work, I think, for businesses and things that pay him. And what you see him trying to track down teenagers who've run away and everything is something that I think he does pro bono, I think. So I would just say if there's a family out there and somebody comes to them and says, I want to help, they have to be paid. Everybody has to make a living. I get it. But there are many ways to get help that are free. And it's good help for free. And I'm not trying to keep any private investigator or anybody else from making a living or anything else. But if somebody comes to a family and says, well, I'll do this for you, but it'll cost this, and the family says no, and the person keeps hounding that family, they're probably a snake oil salesman, most likely. All right, and you know how I feel about psychics. I don't believe them. I don't believe in them. I believe they're frauds. Even if they think they aren't frauds, I think that they are frauds. They think they have special powers. I don't think they do. That's me. And Jessica, do they work all over the country? Jessica, I tell you what, once we get done with this, I'll send you a message about that, more in depth. Diane, welcome. Another Leechburg person there, Diane, and Tara's from Leechburg as well. Welcome. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for tuning in. So, Dorothy, I'm not sure if that, that is my general idea. Being that I know so many quality people who work for free and do consultant work for free, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. If somebody starts asking for money right up front and keeps badgering a family or something, then that family should be suspicious. Everything that I do, all the guests who appear on Unfound, I work for them for free. I interview them for free. You know that the show is free. I continue to help them after the fact for free. And that's the way it's always going to be for families. I'm going to charge for other things, as you know, books and other things, but working for them specifically, I do make some phone calls, some emails, we brainstorm. That's all done for free. So, Dorothy, I hope that answers your question. And, you know, if you've heard me answer this, if you know any families, that's the word that I would spread. Andrea, I see you asked in there, I know how many hours you put into families in the program? How many hours do I sleep on average? I actually get quite a bit of sleep. I really do. It's a funny question, Andrea, and that's why I'm going to answer it. I get quite a bit of sleep, but I am a little bit of a night owl. I usually don't go to bed till like 1, and I usually get up about, so whenever you see my first post of the day, like what I usually do is post a missing persons, a new missing persons article in the group. I've probably gotten up about a half hour before that. So I usually sleep from 1 in the morning to like 8:30, and I'm a guy that never has any problems sleeping. Never. I fall right asleep over here at my brother's. I sleep in my place great. I'm going to be going to see my sister in Orlando in a couple days. I'll sleep great over there. I can basically sleep anywhere, and I fall asleep like that. Like within 5 minutes, I'm out, usually. But how much time do I put into the show? Is that the question? Oh, Terry, you say you got my 2 books today? Great. I'm glad they got to you in one piece. That's spectacular. How much time do I put in the program, I think was the first part of that question, Andrea. I will tell you this. I had to figure this out recently for something else. And to put an episode together, just an individual Friday episode, from the first time that I contact somebody, or for example, Emily contacts somebody and then they find, and she finds them and, introduces them to me, it's about 17 hours. It takes about 17 hours from an episode to go from nothing to be posted at 2 p.m. on a Friday. That's the podcast alone. Now, that doesn't figure into other episodes that I may be working on over the course of a week. I talk to some people who never make it on the program. I'll talk to some people, they're not ready to do that. They're not ready to be interviewed. And of course, I'm doing things like I'm working on the 2nd and 3rd book at the same time. I'm designing those shirts. I'm doing some other things. Everything that has to do with Unfound, that takes up the rest of the time. So I would say this is certainly a 50-hour-a-week thing that I do, and I don't take any days off. I don't take any days off. So, but the podcast alone, including phone calls time and interview time and writing time and recording time and editing time and everything else, it takes about 17 hours an episode. So like a couple weeks ago where I had 2, I had Tyler Stice's case and Bill Underhill's case. That was 34 total hours that took, I think, to bring those 2 episodes together for the same Friday. But sometimes that 17 hours can be spaced out over a week, or it may be spaced out over many months, depending on when I originally talked to the person. So, but that's why I figured it out. I think that's what it comes down to. Tara said they're very nice. It's very nice. They provide their services for free. Kenneth Maines and Kevin and Tad. Yeah, Tara, you're right. You're absolutely right. And Dorothy then answered your question. Good. I'm glad it did. Andrea says, I love that you say this. There are so many scammers out there. Too many scammers. Too many scammers. In fact, I've talked to the mother of a woman who disappeared, and it's a case that we're absolutely going to cover eventually. She got scammed once, unfortunately, and then the scammers came around a second and even a third time. Now, by that time, she was up on what was going on. But yeah, quite a few of the people that I talked to do have at least one scam story, a ransom story, a scam story. Yeah, it's horrible. It is absolutely 100% horrible. Let me see if I can try to find any of these comments. Newest first. Dan is in here. Lane have to give app. Ain't doing it. And I think that's the thing. I'm trying to answer everybody as well as I can. I'm still trying to figure this all out. Judy, welcome for joining in tonight. And for those of you who are just tuning in late, maybe you can find the show later on YouTube. I will post a link to it, and so you can catch the entire thing, anything that you missed at the beginning, because I started talking about my conversations with Alexa. I talked about the poll that we've been running in the group. I talked about being accused of being a conspiracy guy who's connected to the Freemasons this past week as well. So you might want to check that out. I don't know if all of you saw this. This is something I think that just popped up today. There was Brittany Drexel news today. There is a civil rights group of some type in South Carolina that is trying to get, what's his name? I just want to get it right. Tim Taylor, not the tool man Tim Taylor. Tim Taylor out of jail. He's still in jail. If you remember this is something I think we talked about way back when Kevin Ryan was on the program, about how this guy, Jaquan Brown, said that he saw Tim Taylor raping Brittany Drexel out at some house, and she was trying to escape. Tim Taylor drug her back inside, and there were a couple gunshots, and Brittany was never seen again. Remember that story? Well, today they are trying to get Tim Taylor out of jail. He was in jail for something else, and he served his time, but he's still in there. And this group down there say they are violating Tim Taylor's rights by still keeping him in jail, and they think that he's doing it. They're doing it. The prosecutor, the police, is doing that because Tim has been connected to Brittany Drexel's disappearance, and they're violating his rights by doing that without charging him with anything. And this is the story, if some of you have been following it, that this is a story where it was stated that Brittany was fed to some alligators. Maybe that rings a bell. This all comes from this Tim Taylor, Jaquan Brown type of scenario. I don't believe it. I frankly don't believe any of it. I don't. It sounds like a little too far-fetched to me. It sounds, in Jaquan's case, it sounds a little too convenient for him to just happen to show up when she's trying to escape and then the gunshots go off. I have to tell you, I don't believe any of it. And so those people who are trying to get Taylor out of jail, they may have a point. I'm not convinced that this Taylor guy did anything. I'm not convinced that Jaquan Brown saw anything. So because of that, I think that Taylor, if he served his time for this other crime that he committed, he should be let out. I just think there's just something that smells about all of this that doesn't seem right. And I don't think that either of these guys had anything to do with Brittany's disappearance. The feeding to the alligators, it just feels like a movie. So maybe maybe everyone should check that out. In Brittany Drexel's case, very well-known case. So I thought that I should bring that up, being that there was some news on it today. All of you might want to check that out, get more of the specifics on what I'm talking about. Jill asked, what's been the response with the past 2 weeks' cases? Very good. In fact, I think that Aaron's case, of course, Jeremy's case, the week is not quite over yet. But I think that Aaron's case set a record for the most downloads in a week. I think. And of course, as Unfound has gotten popular, it seems like we're breaking records at least once a month or something like that. But I think Aaron was a new high, I think. According to my Podomatic stats, which is where I get them, but I know there's all sorts of different ways that they aren't tabulated. Like, I don't get any statistics from Spotify. I don't get any specific statistics from some of these other places where it just plays and there's no download. But Aaron's case, I believe, was the most popular case that Unfound has ever done. So, and I don't know about the Jeremy statistics quite yet. So, Jill, I would say that the response has been very positive. I went over the polling earlier with most people saying that the cases are probably related, but Jeremy and Aaron were made to disappear for different reasons. That's what a majority of the people said in the poll that I put up in the group. So I hope that answers your question, Jill. Diane, you have to be heartless to scam one of these families. Absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that. So I think that's a lot of the questions that people have asked. I'm just looking over them just to make sure that I haven't missed anything. Going through here. Let me do this. I'm using my Mac for a little bit here, just for a few moments. Bear with me. Make sure I get all the comments. And I think I have. So if you have any more questions, please type them in there. I will try to see them. And I'm going to move on to our case for this week. We're kind of going in a different direction. The last 2 weeks, I would say that we had a couple cases with Aaron's and Jeremy's where multiple possibilities of what happened. Maybe Jeremy ran away. Maybe Jeannie did something. Maybe Ken had something to do. Maybe it was something totally else that we just don't know about at this time. In Aaron's case, a lot of suspicious people, around him. We could look at Tyler and Constance and Clayton and Andrew, and it's amazing I can remember these names. We could look at his ex-wife Tracy, her new guy. But this case this week, there's pretty much one suspect and one suspect alone. And this is a case out of Rochester, New York. It is the disappearance of Brian Sullivan. I interviewed his mother, Barbara, and I need to thank Laurie Travis. I know Laurie usually tunes into the show, but I haven't seen her name come up anywhere tonight. But Laurie introduced me. Of course, Laurie is the sister of Rosemary Gayhart, who disappeared in 1985. She was featured in Volume 1 of the Unfound series of books. But Laurie introduced me to Barbara, and I interviewed her, and that is this week's case. This is a case where this Brian, 19-year-old from Rochester, stayed over at a friend's house, was coming home the next morning, stopped at Burger King, disappeared. His car was found not that much later, just not a few hours later, maybe 8 hours later, on a dead-end street near the Burger King, and he has been never seen again. And so we get into specifics of that, and you're going to hear about the main suspect in that case. You're going to hear about a little bit about the suspect's family. And, of course, like all the guests, as a mother, she's going to tell you about what she's been through. And she did it's a really good interview. And I hope that, in fact, I have to tell you, this case kind of reminds me of this case that, of course, just happened in California with Blaze Bernstein, this kid who was found stabbed to death in the park, and it seems like his friend was the one who did it. That's the case I think we talked about last week in the news. Brian's disappearance reminds me a lot of what happened there. So I hope you all check it out this Friday. I believe this week's case is going to come out a little earlier than usual, so maybe 9 a.m. Eastern time, because I'm going to be driving over to see my sister in Orlando on Friday, and I'd like to get out of town before the traffic gets crazy over in Tampa. So you can expect this episode to come out early on Friday. But the disappearance of Brian Murray, he disappeared in July of 2007, so it's over 10 years old. I posted his picture, and I'll continue to post a couple more links in the group before Friday gets here. You should also know that I believe that I'm going to be covering another disappearance in Rochester, New York, probably within the next couple months. So, and it possibly may be related to Brian's disappearance. So once again, we have a situation like Aaron and Jeremy. I think once again, you're all going to get to decide, if you like, whether Brian's disappearance had anything to do with this other disappearance that I hope to cover. I've already talked to the young man who disappeared. I've already talked to his mother once. I plan to talk to her again very soon. And there are some commonalities between Brian's disappearance and this other disappearance. So there's that. So we have the disappearance of Brian Sullivan coming out this Friday. Next Friday, we're going to be doing a disappearance that happened in Detroit, Michigan. And then the week after that, I already have these things lined up. I'm doing a disappearance out of Indiana again. Indiana, man, we've been in that state quite a few times, it seems. I think that Nikki McCown's case was there. Shannon Turner's case was there. Lola Catherine Fry's case was there. It's amazing. It's weird how I remember that. But we're going to be going back to Indiana again. So I have some of these cases already lined up, the interviews lined up. And so that's to give you a little preview even down the road into February. Dee Dee asks me, can we give case suggestions? Absolutely, Dee Dee. Absolutely. And I hope that Emily sees your post as well. Leah Roberts, I know exactly what that's the case where the young woman drove cross country and her Jeep, I think, was found down in a ravine or something. I remember that. Gordon Page does not ring a bell. Lee Cutler, that name does ring a bell, Dee Dee, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I will surely put them on the list. And I know that Emily is also watching, and maybe she wants to put those on her list as well. She and I can talk about those after the program is over. So yes, absolutely. Maybe some people who are new to the show don't realize that. I absolutely take case suggestions. Absolutely. You want to email me privately. If you have any connections to any family members, you can send their information. I will, of course, look into any and all. I do have to admit, though, the list is getting a little long. It will go on the list, and we'll work our way through it, and we'll try to find as many people as we can find. Just never know how it's going to go. All I can tell you is we'll give it an effort. I can never make any guarantees, though. But yes, we do take case suggestions, Dee Dee. And if you'd like to send me some, or any of you, anybody, please do. I'd be interested to see what cases have caught your attention, and we'll see if we can make any inroads on any of them. So what did we do? We talked about the Freemasons. We talked about Alexa. We talked about Kobe the dog, the poll, the Trib article. Once again, this Sunday, I know we got some Leechburg people in here. Look for an article, an interview that was done with me that I think will be in the Trib newspaper and and on triblive.com. So they interviewed me, being that I'm working with the Trib on disappearance cases now. So there's that. I hope you'll check that out. Got through the business, the playing cards, the books, Shopify. If you'd like to buy an Unfound shirt with a missing person's picture on the back, they're high quality shirts. Talked about the submarine in Argentina, just an update. Jerusalem syndrome. Brittany Drexel took questions from the audience, and I thank you all for tuning in tonight, this Wednesday at 9 p.m. And then finally, I gave you a preview of the disappearance of Brian Sullivan from Rochester, New York in July of 2007. And it reminds me a lot of the Blaze Bernstein case that happened in California recently. So I think I've covered anything. Any more questions? Anything that anybody wants to say? If not, I'm going to be tuning off, shutting down for tonight. And you will hear my voice early on Friday, earlier than usual. And then hopefully you will go and read the article at triblive.com about me, an interview that they did about me on Sunday, and where I will at the time probably be over in Orlando seeing my sister. So there you go. I thank you all for tuning in tonight. This is my favorite part of the week. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Favorite part of my week, getting to talk to all of you. All of you giving me a little piece of your time on a Wednesday night. And so I'm saying good night to everyone. Please be safe, and you will hear me Friday. And this has been Unfound's Facebook Live show, January 17th, 2018. Good night.